What if I told you that the same man who stood by his wife's side for 20 years, defending her through every scandal, shielding her reputation and loving her without question, collapsed on the courthouse steps while she walked out hand in hand with Chris Webber, smiling like she'd just won an award? Because that's exactly what happened. Doug Christie, once an NBA star and now a reality TV husband, just endured the most humiliating betrayal of his life, right in front of the world. After hours of explosive testimony, leaked hotel footage, and a brutal paternity cross-examination, Doug emerged from the courtroom looking like a shell of a man. His suit was drenched in sweat, his knees buckling under the weight of 20 years of lies. And Jackie? She strutted out moments later, heels clicking, sunglasses on, grinning like she was leaving a red carpet premiere. But she didn't leave alone. She left with Chris Webber, the same man accused of sleeping with her and possibly being the biological father of the daughter Doug believed was his own. They walked out together, arm in arm, like they hadn't. Just detonated a marriage and a family in front of the world. It sounds like fiction, but the cameras caught every second of it. The internet didn't just react, it exploded. Doug may have lost everything in that courtroom, and the day wasn't even over yet. Court had only recessed for lunch when chaos erupted outside. Doug had arrived in a quiet, broken state, clearly shaken, but still holding on to whatever small shred of dignity he had left. But by the time he stepped outside again, the truth had hit him like a freight train. He was trembling, fists clenched, jaw locked like a man who just realized he'd been played for 2 entire decades. It was the kind of moment no one predicted would go viral, but of course it did. He tried to make his way to a waiting black SUV, his lawyer whispering in his ear, but he could barely walk. Cameras flashed like machine guns, reporters shouted from every direction. Were the DNA results fake, Doug? Is Chris really with Jackie now? Were you ever her daughter's real father? Doug didn't answer. He couldn't. Because right then, like a scene straight from a Greek tragedy, Jackie stepped through the courthouse doors looking like she was headed for a fashion runway. She wore oversized sunglasses, a burgundy designer coat, and a smirk. That screamed, "I won." And the final twist? She wasn't alone. Chris Webber walked out with her, hand on the small of her back, wearing the same victorious smirk, the same man who had just testified under oath that he never stopped loving Jackie, even during her marriage. Behind them, a VH1 camera crew and producers captured it all, knowing they weren't just filming reality TV anymore, they were filming history. Doug stood frozen. He turned just in time to see Jackie and Chris descend the steps, laughing, whispering, to each other. Jackie even waved to the paparazzi like she was leaving the BET Awards. And then Doug collapsed, not in some dramatic faint or dive, but slowly, as if his soul gave out before his body did. His knees gave way. His legs folded. His lawyer tried to catch him as the cameras kept flashing. The reporters kept yelling. Doug Christie, once seen as the ideal husband, the devoted father, the man who stood strong through every storm, was now just a man who funded a lie, defended a lie, and found out, on national television, that the woman he loved had never truly let go of her ex. And Jackie? She never looked back. That's when everything else started pouring in. The text messages, the footage, and worst of all, the silence from their daughter, Chantel. Hours earlier, in a closed session, the judge had confirmed what Doug had feared. The DNA results were real. Chris Webber was Chantel's biological father. Even more damning, Jackie had known for at least a decade. She had been accused of forging medical records, removing Chris's name from the birth certificate, and even bribing a clinic to destroy the original DNA results. And yet, as she walked away, she was still smiling. Twitter exploded. On those courthouse steps, Doug Christie nearly shattered into pieces. Jackie left like she was heading to brunch with her boyfriend. Chris Webber smiled like a man who knew he had just blown up a legacy. And VH1? They might as well write Doug a check for the trauma they filmed. That night, the headlines didn't need to be written. They wrote themselves. Doug didn't post. He didn't speak. Because sometimes silence says everything. Doug's team later released a brief statement, claiming he was emotionally overwhelmed and focusing on recovering in private. But the internet wasn't nearly as quiet. Fans immediately dug up old episodes of Basketball Wives, resurfacing clips where Doug had stood beside Jackie like a soldier at war, defending her through every whisper of infidelity. One moment, in particular, went viral. Jackie screaming at the camera, "Chris Webber, he's my past. Doug is my savior, always." That line, once said in tears, was now being turned into TikTok edits and memes. In another clip, she boldly claimed, "Doug is my forever." And now, those same words were being laid over new footage of her walking out of court with Chris, hand in hand. It was betrayal in HD. Despite VH1's attempts to downplay their role in the chaos, the audience wasn't buying it. Clown emojis flooded the network's Instagram. Hashtags like "You Reach Protect Doug," "You Reach Jackie New," and "This Was All Scripted" were trending globally. Even Chantel, their daughter who normally stayed quiet, broke her silence in a way that shattered people. She posted a cryptic Instagram story. No words, just a photo of Doug from behind, sitting alone on a bench, with the caption, "Sometimes the wrong people teach you the right kind of love." It hit hard. Imagine watching the man who raised you collapse while the man who fathered you just stood there smirking. The internet didn't know where to direct its anger, at Jackie for carrying out the deception, or at Chris for his cold timing. Because according to leaked emails from Jackie's ex-assistant, Chris had purposely waited to go public with the affair until he knew the DNA test had been finalized. Why? Because he didn't just want the truth. He wanted Jackie back. Let that sink in. The same man who blew up her marriage, exposed a child's hidden identity, and dragged Doug through emotional warfare didn't do it for justice. He did it to win her back, and Jackie fell right into it. Anonymous insiders claim Chris and Jackie had been reconnecting for over a year. Secret hotel meetups, out-of-town business trips, even joint therapy sessions, all designed to rekindle what they once had. The leaked hotel footage that went viral? That was apparently just the beginning. Sources say there were multiple hotel visits over the past year, and that Jackie had emotionally checked out of her marriage long before the DNA bombshell dropped. According to a VH1 insider, she had already decided to leave Doug. She just needed an exit plan that wouldn't make her look like the villain. And what did that plan cost? Doug lost his pride, his peace, and possibly millions. Now, whispers are growing louder that he's preparing to hit back. A $12 million lawsuit is reportedly in the works against Jackie and VH1, citing emotional damage, public humiliation, and intentional career sabotage. And Chris, he's not off the hook either. Doug's legal team has filed a motion to subpoena all communications between Chris and Jackie from the past 15 years. We're talking texts, emails, voicemails, even messages sent from burner phones. They want to prove that the affair never truly ended, and that Jackie manipulated Doug into raising a child she knew wasn't his, just to protect Chris's public image and future. This isn't a love triangle anymore. It's high-level emotional fraud. And Doug's finally ready to go to war. Yet, no matter how big this gets, no matter how many lawsuits are filed or truths come out, there's one moment the world won't forget. Doug Christie collapsing on the steps, broken, betrayed, and blindsided. And right behind him, Jackie Christie smiling with Chris Webber like none of it mattered. The court may have granted her bail, but public opinion. It sentenced her to a lifetime of disgrace. Doug didn't even look back. Doug didn't just collapse. Physically, it was symbolic. The man who had spent 2 decades as Jackie Christie's calm, quiet protector was now at the center of the most humiliating scandal of his life. As pity memes and brutal jokes flooded social media, Jackie and Chris went completely silent online. But silence didn't mean remorse. The very next evening, paparazzi spotted them on a rooftop restaurant in downtown Los Angeles, clinking wine, glasses like a couple celebrating a fresh start, grinning, glowing, and completely unfazed by the storm they'd set off. Meanwhile, Doug's legal team wasn't just preparing a lawsuit. They were crafting a complete narrative, one that didn't just frame Doug as the betrayed husband, but as the true victim of a long-term scheme masterminded by Jackie and Chris. Subpoenas were flying. Emails, texts, call logs. Since 2003, any trace of communication between the two was now being hunted down. If Chris Webber thought he could walk away untouched, he was in for a legal full-court press. Then the scandal blew wide open. An anonymous member of the VH1 production team leaked an entire season's worth of never-aired scenes, including a hidden camera confession Jackie made in a closed set months earlier. In the clip, with mascara streaking down her face, she admits she always suspected Chantel might not be Doug's biological daughter, but she was too scared to face the truth. Whispering, she said, "I thought I was protecting him. I thought he'd leave me. I couldn't lose them both." But the internet didn't accept it. Viewers dragged her saying her tears weren't for Doug. They were for her image. One tweet with over 500,000 likes read, "She didn't protect him. She used him. And now she's smiling like she just won the jackpot." And just like that, Chantel re-entered the public eye, but this time with her own voice. In a raw, unfiltered Instagram Live, Chantel finally broke her silence. Sitting in a dimly lit room, visibly shaken, she said, "I love my mom, but I hate what she's become. And if Chris really is my dad, why did I have to find out in court?" The comment section turned into an outpouring of support. "You deserve the truth, Chantel. Doug is still your real dad. Jackie robbed everyone." The live went viral instantly, and it changed everything. Doug was no longer just a husband betrayed. He was now seen as a father who was emotionally conned, financially drained, and publicly crucified by the people he trusted most. VH1, smelling blood in the water, announced a special reunion episode featuring Doug, Jackie, Chris, and Chantel. The internet was shocked. Many called it exploitation. Petitions were launched to cancel the special, and yet filming had already taken place. Leaks began circulating days before the official air date, and it was bad. In the footage, Doug refused to sit next to Jackie. Chris wore sunglasses the entire time like he was attending a premiere, not a reckoning. Jackie walked in wearing all white, saying it symbolized closure and peace. But peace was the last thing in that room. "I regret hurting Doug," she said. "But I don't regret the truth. I don't regret finding my happiness again." Doug looked at her, stood up, and delivered the line that silenced everyone. "You didn't rediscover happiness. You rediscovered ego. I was your shield, your platform, your cover story. You owe me more than regret. You owe me my life back." The room froze. Even Chris shifted in his seat. And then the knockout blow. Doug pulled out a manila envelope and handed it to the host. Inside were documents. Bank transfers allegedly showing Jackie paid a fertility consultant to alter birth records, screenshots of forged hospital paperwork listing Doug as Chantel's father, and emails from a private investigator Doug had quietly hired. The host ran out of time trying to read it all. The crowd gasped. Jackie cried, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Hours before the episode was scheduled to air, VH1 pulled the plug. They cited legal concerns, but everyone knew the truth. The footage was too damning. VH1 wasn't protecting the cast anymore. They were protecting themselves. The very next morning, Doug Christie filed a $15 million lawsuit. The charges were staggering: emotional fraud, identity tampering, reputational damage, and public defamation. But what shocked everyone most was that Doug demanded full financial restitution for raising Chantel, claiming the entire parenthood was based on a lie of paternity. Jackie didn't respond, but Chris did. He tweeted cryptically, "I stood in the truth. That's all I ever did." Doug quote-tweeted him just minutes later, "Then you'll have no problem showing up for discovery." Mic dropped. Jackie's legal team fired back with countersuits, claiming emotional warfare and defamation. They alleged that she had tried multiple times to settle things privately. But Doug refused, not because of principle, but because he wanted to stay relevant. In their version, Doug had dragged deeply personal matters into the public spotlight to play the victim and rack up sympathy points. This ignited a fresh wave of online debate. Was Doug genuinely betrayed, or was he now capitalizing on the chaos? Was Jackie a heartless manipulator, or just a broken woman clinging to something real? TikToks went viral with captions like, "Jackie may have walked out of that courthouse smiling, but karma was already waiting in the parking lot." And just as part 2 of the scandal peaked, the plot twisted again, because a new woman stepped into the spotlight and she wasn't connected to Jackie or Chris. Her name was Kyla Monroe, and though she wasn't famous or from the entertainment world, she came with rage, receipts, and a story that flipped everything on its head. According to Kyla, she had been in an on-and-off relationship with Doug Christie for nearly 5 years. Yes, while he was still married to Jackie. In an emotional interview, Kyla claimed Doug had long suspected Chantel wasn't his daughter and that he had spent years collecting evidence, screenshots, journal entries, recordings, all with the intent to one day use it. "He knew," she said, her voice trembling. "He knew about Jackie and Chris. He wasn't blindsided. He sat still. He plotted. And now he's playing the victim? Nah, I'm done protecting him." The internet went wild. Memes exploded. Doug was suddenly no longer the betrayed husband. He was now being called a villain with a playbook. There were courtroom sketch memes, Doug versus Jackie TikToks, and Chris Webber edits with captions like, "I just wanted to hoop." Doug's team denied everything. His attorney issued a sharp statement saying, "Mr. Christie has no connection to Ms. Monroe and is considering legal action for slander." But it was too late. Kyla doubled down. She went live twice. In the first, she broke down crying, claiming Doug had promised to leave Jackie for her. In the second, she played a voicemail, allegedly from Doug, saying, "When this is over, it's just going to be you and me. Jackie's lies won't touch us." Real or not, the damage was done. Now, Jackie wasn't the only villain. The entire scandal began to look like a toxic chess match between narcissists, liars, and opportunists. Meanwhile, Chris Webber stayed quiet, but his name was in every trending topic, late-night joke, and tabloid headline. One outlet claimed he'd been offered a book deal titled Rebound: My Side of the Jackie Saga. Photoshopped mock covers went viral before his rep issued a quick no comment. And then came the trial. Yes, Doug sued Jackie and Chris. And yes, it was televised. The judge allowed cameras in the courtroom due to overwhelming public interest. What followed was more explosive than any reunion special. Doug arrived first, shades on, jaw locked. Jackie came next, dressed, in all black. Chris? Late, unbothered, walking in like nothing could touch him. Opening statements hit hard. Doug's lawyer described Jackie as a master manipulator, orchestrating a decades-long paternity fraud while cashing in on Doug's loyalty and reputation. Jackie's team clapped back, branding Doug as bitter, claiming he used fatherhood as emotional blackmail against a woman who just wanted happiness. But the courtroom changed when Chantel took the stand. Nervous but composed, she said, "I didn't ask to be born into a lie, but I also didn't ask to be turned into a pawn." She looked between her parents. "My mom should have told the truth, but Doug, he raised me. He was my dad, until this lawsuit." The room fell dead silent. Even the judge looked shaken. Jackie wept. Doug looked down. Chris, for the first time, looked guilty. Doug's testimony followed. He described how he'd endured the rumors for years, how he defended Jackie against everyone, even while losing brand deals, friendships, and his peace. "I smiled through it all," he said. "I was mocked, humiliated, but I stayed silent. This isn't just betrayal. This is the theft of trust, of time, of identity." The courtroom recessed, but the footage went viral. TikToks, Reels, YouTube, edits, even rap freestyles began to circulate, turning Doug into a symbol of betrayed loyalty. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Dozens of witnesses appeared, former assistants, reality TV producers, a DNA lab tech, even a retired hotel security guard. And when the verdict finally dropped, Doug won. The judge sided with Doug Christie. Jackie was ordered to pay damages for emotional distress, defamation, and legal costs. Chris was found complicit in fraudulent concealment and was ordered to issue a public apology. Jackie fainted in court. Paramedics rushed in. Chris shook the judge's hand and walked out like he'd just inked a sneaker deal. But the internet made the final call. Hashtags exploded. "Huge, Doug," "Was right," "You, Jackie exposed," "You, free Chantel." Jackie vanished. Instagram deleted, no interviews, no press. Rumors swirled that she had left the country, checked into therapy, or was quietly filming a tell-all docuseries. Doug? He launched a podcast, Christie Uncut, The Real Truth Behind the Lies. Episode 1. I should have left her in 2006. Millions tuned in. Chantel moved in with her fiancé and cut ties with both parents. And Chris? He signed on as the narrator for an ESPN docuseries about betrayal, loyalty, and what it costs. To play the game off the court, and just when it seemed like the saga had ended, Jackie reappeared. In Rome. Holding hands with someone no one expected. But that's a whole other story. One we'll be telling soon. So, now tell me, was Doug Christie the victim all along? Or was he just a master manipulator who finally got outplayed by the very woman he thought he had under control? Because Jackie didn't just walk out of that courthouse smiling. She walked out unapologetic. And Chris Webber? He survived the internet's dragging, lost in court, and still had the audacity to wink at the cameras like he just won MVP.